Alright, you guys, this video is going to be somewhat philosophical and deep and complex and all that good stuff. But I know you guys are a vividly thinking and cognitive capable bunch, so I think not only is this going to be within your grasp, but I think it's going to be something that at least to most of you is going to be interesting and be something that you value. So stick with me through that. Anyways, the inspiration for this came when I came across a lecture from Philosophy Overdose, a channel which I very much trust and recommend because it's just touches in on everything from all across the spectrum of philosophy, and they seem to be very respectable and neutral and generous towards every thinker and subdiscipline and way of thought in there. So it's just a huge ocean that exposes you to the whole world of philosophy. Anyway, so this particular clip was about Jacques Derrida, the post-structuralist and early day postmodernist thinker. Now, first thing, I haven't read Derrida myself. I haven't studied his work. The entire, I've heard a lot of the criticism of Derrida and postmodernism and everything, but I gotta give it this. I haven't really dived into as much as I want into the early thinkers. I can certainly see where a large chunk of that discipline is at today, but yeah, I haven't dived as much as I want to and will do more of over time into the early thinkers and their works. So I'm just basing this off of this guy's lecture on him, and he was treating him very fairly as well. And he, surely challenged some of the critics, the guys, among the critics who would have said that his motives were dishonest. This guy whose lecture I will link challenged that. I'm also going to link a another lecture from Philosophy Overdose where an Australian lecturer is talking about the problem of other minds, which is also kind of sheds light on the same topic. So what can we take for granted in each other's minds, and what can we take for granted in communication, or can we take anything for granted at all? Do we have any justification, any genuine, honest justification to take anything for granted? So yeah, it's a very interesting combination. And then, of course, I'm going to throw another thing in the mix, which is a lecture series. I'll probably just link the first lecture from Robert Sapolsky over at Stanford University. And this, I think well, when I saw the course, the lecture series was from 2010, which already now makes it very old in terms of biology, and because things with genetics and neurobiology and everything, things move very, very fast in that discipline in our time. But still, this course, human behavioral biology, is very much if you can stick through it, if it keeps you engaged through it, it's very rich. It's good to have that as we approach everything else in the humanities, in cognition, in thinking and thought and understanding. Then it's absolute juice. So, anyways, without further ado, I'm going to go into the notes that I've compiled as per my thoughts on the this video and this topic that they're touching in on with Derrida. So yeah, let's get to it. So the first thing I'm going to bring up, the first point, is a quote from Stella Adler, the late actress, acting teacher, and acting pioneer, whose school of thought I studied under. I studied under her school after her death, but my teachers were students of hers. And she said, "I paint a picture in my mind's eye to influence my inner being," which is they're actually going into this imagination and how we use that to move ourselves, and also how we come from this thing within our mind, our imagination. We construct our images and thoughts, and then they influence us, or we're influenced by that as per our experience, and then we express that. And we'll come back to this. So keep this quote in mind as we move through the rest of this text. Okay, so the topic of language is tricky indeed. And postmodernists, relativists, and sophists alike have been right to point that out. Our words arise out of a consensus which moves continuously throughout the progressing fabric of our cultural norms, customs, tradition, and civilization. It can surely be argued to be biased towards its own framework or structure, if you will. On top of which, indeed, our own experiences, relationship to words, context, and meaning matters. Your sources of reference are contained within yourself, and every bit of data your senses have accumulated and information your mind has processed. But it all doesn't end there, nor is that the whole story. Going back to Stella's point of the image in the mind's eye, we have an image and or an idea based on who we are and our sources of reference. We pick the words and place them in the order we best find to express that. And the other person's capacity to understand that depends on their ability to decipher that and arrive at an understanding within their own mind and sources of reference that best fits what we were trying to get across. So you see, it is very much a complicated process, and it's very easy to take that for granted. So, and that's what I write here next. So, we do indeed take this for granted way too often and far too easily. But insinuating that because of this notion, we can't say that communication is ever realistic, reliable, nor trustworthy, and thus there can't be any such thing as objective and/or unbiased truth, is simply taking the ball and running off to the other extreme. So, our entire technological and scientific progression, our modern world as we know it, is all a result of trial and error that has produced millions upon millions of replicable empirical truths. It may have taken several attempts before the understanding between mind and matter, or mind and mind, became clear and firm enough to produce a unanimous success, but it happened. Further, we're now gradually getting a lot better at specificity and detail. Just look at nanotechnology and neurobiology, or IT even. We're working within the 0.001% of specificity in a wide range of extremely complex tasks and thus complex communications. This is why we read, learn, study, grow, expose ourselves to challenges, different views and or opinions, experience, novelty, all that so that our pool, our source of reference can grow wider, deeper and richer, as a result of which we become better communicators. How often do we need to make the case for free speech? Derrida's modern disciples are desperately refuting the one key to solve the problems he seems to have been pointing out. Now, by his modern day disciples, I'm referencing and referring to a lot of what seems to be the outcome of postmodernist thought, the speech censorship and thought censorship and everything, this whole political correctness, etc., etc. Yeah, so basically that would be the opposite way to solve the problems or issues that he was pointing out. Would take us in the other direction, limit what we can share so that we can't build this conjoined huge pool of reference, common pool of reference for understanding. Anyways, moving on. Sure, language is a barrier as much as it is a medium, and it has various obstacles. Writing is an obstacle. Cognitive bubble, echo chamber, is an obstacle. Translations are huge obstacles. All of this can diminish the wealth of what is being communicated and take us further away from the infinite possibilities we have to get close to the communicator and what he or she may have intended. None of it means we should stop trying, because trying has gotten us very far. Just look at the world. Unless we want to say that this YouTube, internet connection, camera, computer, all this stuff, light in the room is, unless we want to say that this is somehow fake, nothing, it's all an illusion, which I guess you could, but that would not be my choice of it. But yeah, we've come a long way. So a bit more on where I'm coming from. Arriving at this, I come from several languages, classical training in literature, arts, writing, and acting, on top of which I've read and studied an ocean of various texts, scholarly and fiction. I've heard my elders speak of pre-World War II Iceland, been on the inside of Scandinavian farmers' life, so Norway, Sweden, Denmark, there, experienced the early post-Soviet Baltic firsthand, and been on the inside of modern-day Hollywood. This is just like a tiny bit of just a tiny recap of a little bit of my makeup. So that's a compilation of references unique to me. But it doesn't mean that there aren't riches and wealth to everyone else's compilations, and that we can't find ways for those to complement each other. For instance, all of you guys watching this, you have your own unique compilation that makes up your ocean, your pool that you have as your source of reference. And yeah, hit me up in the comment section with something from your pool of reference, and chip in on this. That's how we do it, you know. Anyways, moving on. The post-structuralists and postmodernists may have been the hottest thing around in the 1960s, 70s, and potentially the 80s, but the world has moved far beyond that, and our methods to understand ourselves and the world have changed. Thus, our modes and methods to critique it must change, or I suggest it perhaps should change, or might change. It's a topic for discussion. Is this a valid critique? I mean, when post-structuralism emerged, and you'll see this in the clip that I'm basing this off of, it emerged as a critique of structuralism. It was applying structuralist principles to structuralism. So yeah. So, but you know, to which extent is it applicable outside of that, and is it applicable to a degree in which we don't have better tools now, 50 odd years later? Do we have better and more applicable tools? This is why I'm tossing Robert Sapolsky's lecture series in there, because quite frankly, I'm very sure that we have better tools for understanding than structuralism, and probably more specific tools, and also better tools for critique. So let's go back in here. So yeah, and this is basically what I wrote as well. Neurobiology and genetics have brought us answers that could potentially have rendered some of these guys obsolete in their own time, so perhaps it's okay to criticize them too now and allow for them to be a thing of the past. Well, maybe not, maybe. This is trying to initiate a conversation here. Also, are we to ignore Bertrand Russell, Daniel Dennett, who's still alive and working to this day, and the countless others whose work might pose a serious challenge to this? First rule is, and this is my suggestion as the first rule, listen, pay attention, grant courtesy, and seek to genuinely understand. Not just make up what everybody else is saying, try to assume or project meaning onto someone, but genuinely try and understand. And sometimes, yeah, that takes 5 or 10 minutes of conversation to make sure that you understood one statement a person said, you know, within the ballpark of what they meant. But yeah, it's a lot better to actually just put ourselves through that work than to decide that we're not going to talk at all. Anyways, So yeah, if Derrida's modern day disciples all go, language is all just a bunch of made up biased symbols that have been used to oppress people throughout all of human history, and therefore there's no point in listening ever, then maybe they don't even understand him, and thus that might give some credence to his point. At any rate, this is what I wrote down on this one for now, and just a few thoughts. Um, yeah, I recapped this. I saw this lecture a few days ago, and I recapped this a little bit today. I also recapped the problem of other minds lecture. But yeah, this is really something, and actually now having listened to this, it makes me want to read Derrida. If any of you have actually gone through it, now I hear from people who have various feedback. Some of them say it's impossible to understand him, or he was just making things up and making words up to sound super smart while really actually saying nothing. Uh, I would. This guy was honest. He granted courtesy. I would want to grant courtesy. Maybe there's something to it. Maybe the critics don't quite understand him, and also the people who subscribe to his ideas, or the dissent of his ideas. Maybe they don't understand him. I don't know. I feel curious about it. If any of you guys have read Derrida and you believe that you have some grasp on his work, his an understanding of it, please chip in. And if the guy I'm sharing this lecture series, that lecture from, if the guy speaking about him, if you believe that he doesn't understand him, or you believe that I don't understand some things, chip it in. This is still very much a new part of philosophy for me. So I've been around the block in philosophy, but this is still very much a new realm, and I feel like I have a better grasp on some of the other postmodernist writers than this one. So yeah, to cut it short, because this has gone on for quite a while now, so just to cut it short at this point, yeah, do chip in. I want to see the comment section under here grow, and I want to participate, and I want to learn some stuff. I'm sharing this, but I want to learn from you guys as well. I'd be thrilled to read and comment back to you guys. Anyways, enough for now. Viking out.